BuyingTheMassPresents.com here with another week of our Walking Dead podcast talking about Inmates. My name is Aaron, and with Riverman and
Hola.
Patrick.
Howdy, folks.
I got to say, this is the episode that I wanted last week. I think we all can agree that we liked this episode a little better than last week. They covered a lot more ground in 45 minutes than the Carl show did. And a lot more solid. It gave us a lot more insight into a lot more of the characters that got scattered around, you know. So I personally, right out of the gate, was a lot more impressed with it. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I mean, obviously the action stepped up with it, and like you said, it was something that we were kind of hoping for. What we'd probably try to come to expect when it comes to, you know, a season opener. You know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we got what we got. I mean, obviously, there's people who liked it, but I mean, we're just a little more faster paced, and much to the chagrin, we found out some characters are still alive that some people on this show would rather prefer dead.
We want everybody dead, but you know, and also along with this episode, it would have been a more appropriate first episode after a big long wait, but we got a lot of closure and a lot of questions answered that people have been wondering about since, you know, I think, you know, the start of the season or even season 3. And a couple of big topics came up with this episode, particularly with obviously Carol's return and the little girl, which we'll get into, Lizzie, I think. But we'll start from the top. I mean, we got a viewpoint of what a lot of people are doing, and it started off with Beth. She kind of had her moment to shine. She starts it all off with her monologue, and you know, Daryl is not saying. He said like 2 words, which once again, their poster boy. He was in this episode this time, but really for like the first 5 minutes, and he said like 2 words.
I'm glad you kind of said something, because I'm not really getting that anymore. Really, with him, like he is, you know, he's at all the conventions. He's, you know, he's him and Glenn and Rick are like the face of the show, and he says, I mean, he said maybe 10 words this whole season.
Well, I mean, as far as just total I'm going to say fangirlism, because the most of the demographic here is women. It seems like, at least from where I'm from, that
fan momism too. There's a lot of mothers.
Yeah, for sure. But as far as like the women, definitely leaning towards Norman Reedus. He's number one. He's on all these crazy T-shirts. People are literally, it's Beatlemania for some reason. But yeah, they don't utilize them. And I don't know what the deal is there, but we have a girl, Beth, who went from not saying a word in seeing season 2 and just sort of becoming an afterthought and glorified babysitter in season 3 to all of a sudden talking for about 5 minutes straight. So, I mean, it was both at the same time welcome, I thought, but also kind of very uncomfortable and odd. Like, it's kind of weird. You know, there's no transition. She was a mute, and now she won't shut up. Her monologue was cool. Very, very well written. I think her
set up the episode nice. I thought.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. I do think she might be the weakest actor so far, but you know, she hasn't really had much time to shine. Her dialogue sort of came off like voice acting in a Resident Evil video game. That's my opinion on that. But
I think she had more lines in season 2 than she had in like season 3 and season 4 combined.
I think you're right, and I forget about that. It's hard to remember some of the fine details going back that far. And speaking of that, because it seems like it was such a long time ago, I mean, because of the gaps we get now, I mean, everybody and their mom is jumping on this bandwagon with nickel and dime and everybody with half seasons, you know, which are basically 2 seasons, 2 short seasons. We kind of forget how much time has not passed. And, you know, with the events in this one from where we left off last season, it really not that much time has passed. But anyway, staying on the topic of Beth and Daryl, I think it's interesting they put those 2 together, and I think they did that cleverly with everybody. You know, they put the odd couples together, and you know, because you had Beth, who was sort of a side character, and you have Daryl, who's supposed to be a main character. And I don't know, I for a moment there, I kind of thought like, what are these 2 gonna get together? I really did. Like, that would be an interesting twist. You know, Daryl gets together with the youngin' who never said a word, and
a farmer's daughter.
The farmer's daughter.
The forbidden fruit.
The forbidden fruit. Hey, Milton's not on the show anymore.
Yeah.
But me and River and I were talking earlier about this actually. But you'd think in the zombie apocalypse or any kind of situation like that where humanity has just crumbled, it would sort of revert back to primitive biblical times, you know? And basically, Daryl would be so hitting that. And well, I just think
it'd be like Quest for Fire. You guys ever seen that movie? Like it's about warring factions of like primitive man and like how they how humans came to be the number one, the alpha. And like there's literally just scenes where like women are just like bending over at a lake, and then just like a guy just comes up and just rapes the shit out of them and then just runs away. And that's just like
God.
That's just how it goes. Like you just and then like they're just like fighting each other over it. So I don't know if it would divert that far back, but
back to the primitive.
Yeah. Oh God, Soulfly reference.
The Walking Dead is pushing boundaries as far as bringing this kind of violence on cable TV, but we're not going that far. We're just going full on sodomy. Not yet.
The thing of it is they show that movie on AMC. It's weird. But anyways, I digress.
but so it just reminds me, you take even in the prison. I mean, in this situation, that's one thing. It's like, you're alone with a female. It's like the deserted island thing. I mean, you could throw Kim Kardashian or whatever famous whoever on a deserted island with Mr. Joe Schmo, and they're pretty much gonna make do with each other. Like, all right, it's
well,
just
that goes with anybody. I mean, you throw 5 guys on an island, they're gonna find the prettiest guy.
Well, my money's on that. My money's on that you would jump on the boat a little faster than us. But but even with the prison, they were comfortable. They had their own little society going. Life was actually kind of moving from day to day. Okay, even then, let's say there's 20 guys and there was 20 guys and 10 women in this prison. You don't want to be one of those 10 guys without a woman. I think the competition for getting one of those women is going to be pretty hefty because you never know. If you don't get one of them, you might never get a woman. And I think Beth would have been first to go. I'm surprised nobody was. There would have been so much rape going on.
Well, I think maybe the difference besides standards and practices is that Kirk was maybe showing some people who are actually civilized. Now, obviously, he kind of hints at some of the other horrible things that are more than likely going on, the things that you're kind of talking about that would basically humanity would digress into during this type of situation. But I think it's a little more subtle when they kind of reference it and they don't really kind of just go completely overboard.
Rape aside, age kind of goes out the window. I think even Beth and everybody would have been on board like, hey, you know what, Beth, she's actually I think she's a really attractive girl, but even in the the confines of everything and the whole situation, she's definitely tunnel pretty, as in she is the hottest thing there. You know how that is when people are tunnel pretty. Like, I think River was even saying Carol looked good.
Hey, I didn't say that. You didn't hear nothing.
I'm just saying, and she would be. I'm saying it's just like in prison. Like, I think what Todd was getting at, whereas if he was in prison, he would adapt really quick to pounding dudes. And, I mean, they all do, right? So, I mean, I think even Carol, and if Carol would look good, Beth would have already been snatched up. That's all I'm going to say. But I do think it would be a cool little twist if they got together, and I thought for a second, that was going to happen. But no, it was just her, standing around. We got to help them, and he was just kind of looking down.
Daryl just seemed kind of annoyed by her.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. Which, by the way, to end the little topic of Beth and this whole thing, Riverman here was pretty relieved when I revealed to him that the actress that plays her is actually almost 29 years old.
I couldn't believe that.
I think she's almost 29 yet.
That's baffling. Kudos to the makeup and effects person for making her look a lot younger than that.
So anybody out there can feel a lot less pervy, But
about that one, anyways.
Kind of going back to what you were saying, I just want to see some.
You should still feel very ashamed of yourself about 95% of what else you think.
Chances are you got a few, so you can scratch that one off if you were feeling uncomfortable about it.
You're going on and on about going back to the primitive. I mean, I don't think they should be shaving. Like, they should have hairy pits. I mean, they should be.
The whole show.
It's the zombie apocalypse. They're not French, all right. They're not that far uncivilized. Good God.
By all means, they should be really smelly, but for the sake of the show, they're not. I mean, honestly,
they
haven't
also wiped in 3 months.
Well, that's also because of where it's kind of set. I mean, these are somewhat upper to lower class white people, and even they have standards. Now, if this was The Walking Dead India, I mean, it looked like a bunch of cousin-its running around.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly.
It looked like the Walking Dead on the Ewok planet from Return of the Jedi.
There's a lot of these little details that we just have to give them the benefit that there's something they're figuring out. I mean, for goodness sakes, in the prison, all the toilets were clean. There's no plumbing. They're obviously not taking shits in the toilet because they'd be piled to the mound. So what are they? I guess we just have to assume they're all going out to the courtyard there and shitting in the ground and then burying it like a dog. That's it.
Maybe they made an outhouse.
And as far as like wiping, you know what? I guess they go out on their little they go and raid and they find raids. They find stores and general stores and drug stores. Okay, I get it. They could find supplies and stocks.
They have enough knives everywhere too. So
well, they could find enough toilet paper and toiletries and things like that. But eventually, they're going to clear out all the nearby locations. Eventually, they're going to run out. And there was a lot of people in that prison. They're all walking around with mud butt.
Yeah, the tampons are going to run out eventually.
Go.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I don't know what you'd shove up there, I don't know. But whatever. We spent a lot of time on that.
Well, I mean, since they were farming, they could just grow cotton and just stick a big old, ball of cotton just right up in there. Have at it.
Okay, we'll just say that's what Rick did. Rick was awfully busy farming cotton for a while there. Moving on, the other big scenario we got to peek into was another sort of mispairing, and that was Tyrese with the little children. I mean, you got big, intimidating-looking Tyrese with two little girls and baby Judith. That was the big revelation of this episode, which, by the way, I knew was happening. There was a spoiler last week, and the South American teaser trailer clearly showed a small clip in the montage there of Tyrese holding the baby. So that got out. It got out on all the Walking Dead pages, and it just kind of, you can't unsee it. But it's okay. I wasn't too upset with that spoiler. I mean, even though that's our biggest pet peeves, like at least me and River, because I knew the baby was going to be alive. And anybody that follows this podcast knows that I, for one, wanted it to not be alive for the sake of realism, not because I'm a barbarian, but but it was alive. But actually, I really like what they're doing. If it's going to be alive, at least they can utilize it, and they are. They're actually utilizing her in the story, and she's become a threat. Her crying has become sort of a handicap in their party. It's going to alert the zombies, and
it's the first time it's ever happened. It seems like.
Yeah, because that's why she should have. That's why I felt like, what. I don't know what this kid was for other than to sort of prop up the whole story between the love child and the triangle between Shane. I get it. And then if they were going to kill it, that would be something for Rick to go crazy to feed that story arc. But it didn't serve a purpose last season. You never saw Judith. And same thing with Beth. She was the glorified babysitter. We just kind of assumed, Judith's Beth's watching Judith. Okay, great. So at least now she's kind of getting her time. But it also kind of looks like maybe we are getting her purpose. And that was the big scene with Lizzie, who, before that, we got to talk about, everybody's talking about Tyrese running off and leaving the kids there, which is totally retarded. I don't understand that. What do you guys think? What's the reasoning behind there? Why would they not
brain fart?
Thinking in the moment?
I don't know, because the writer thought that'd be the clever way to bring Carol back into the show. I don't know. It seemed pretty illogical to me in the moment, and especially because he'd be better off taking him with her, taking them with him, even from the point of view of getting a few kills under their belt, because he ran across that guy. So might as well just say, hey kids, have at it. Kill a few. Cripple a few walkers and tell them to put a few knives in their heads.
They'd be a lot safer on the train tracks where they can actually see zombies instead of in the middle of a woods where they can pop out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, in zombies, they only move so fast. So if you're on that big narrow train track,
just run away from them.
They literally just keep having to run about 50 yards and buying them time, and they don't really have to get lost in obscurity. But the thing is, what I didn't understand about that is he's trying to leave them. And he's trying to tell him, look, don't move from this spot. And he gives them both guns. So he's obviously letting them defend themselves anyway. So yeah, you're right, Pat. They could have been extra, ammunition for him. But whatever, he told them not to move, and that makes a lot of sense, because if, he comes back and they moved, then they're just as lost as everybody else to everybody else. and because they're all in the same woods, they're all in the same vicinity, but you know how woods are, you know, you could never see anybody ever again. But then he tells them, if something comes, run. I'm like, that makes not a lick of fucking sense. Like, if you're telling them to stay, but if something comes and you're totally prepared and you're leaving them with a baby who could potentially make something come, you're telling them to run, then they're just going to be left to themselves. They're going to be two little girls with a baby, basically dead.
And then he told them pretty much the exact opposite, too, that when you're in a group, you run, but you need to make sure you stay with the others.
So he's just confused.
Clearly, Tyrese isn't leader material.
He's under a lot of stress. I mean, he's got to take care of a baby and two bratty ass kids. One of whom's a sociopath, the other one who's just a big pussy. So
maybe
and a goddamn baby. I mean, this is just got bad BET sitcom written all over it.
You saw how awkward it was having him hold that baby.
Oh yeah, like no, they're all holding it like it was like a friggin' hand grenade that was about to explode on them. So,
but anyway, that whole scene, whether it makes sense to any of us or not, was definitely there to, you know, give us that whole scene with Lizzie, which was really great. I just don't hate kid characters. I hate Carl. Everybody knows I hate Carl. It's not because I beat up on like young annoying characters. I really think Carl's just an annoying little shit. The Lizzie thing, I like where it's going. Because there was that scene where she was crying. They heard, I guess we thought it was walkers. I guess it ended up being Carol. I'm not sure. But, you know, she started putting its hand over its mouth, which, by the way, seems kind of nutso-oid to shut a baby up like that anyway. But then she slowly started covering up her nose, and it was very, very subtle. And then there was that little moment while it was, you know, quieting down. She had this look of just psychopathy in her eyes, you know. And
the lights were turning off for a second.
Yeah, and it was really subtle, and I really like how I thought that was a really cool move, and I like how the show does the subtleties. What I don't like, and I want to address, is, you know, I do follow some of the groups online on the interwebs and things like that, and everybody thinks they're so clever, and they're posting like, did anybody else catch this little look she gave? Do you think she tried to kill the baby? I'm like, it's obvious. I mean, if you can't catch this whole show is about underlinings. I mean, I get it. It's appealed to the mass audiences, the lowest common denominator, but we can be a little more clever than this. I mean, the writing isn't that shoddy. I mean, it was clearly supposed to paint a picture.
Oh, totally. I mean, I've read several different articles saying that a lot of things that we might find random are very deliberate. Things that they may write into the show. And anybody who analyzes this other than, you know, what it was is just an absolute moron. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry that she's crazy, especially because we saw her, you know, murdering those baby bunnies beforehand, which where the hell did baby bunnies come from? I don't know. I mean, I figured the zombies must have...
Were they zombified bunnies?
I don't know. Well, I mean, rabbits are pretty fast. So you figured they probably have a pretty good chance of keeping away from the zombie hordes.
This is true.
So.
I'm getting a little distracted because I saw a news headline today where a woman got chased by a random horde of bunnies in a park. It was hilarious.
That's actually kind of happened to my wife, but that's a story for another day.
But the thing is, what I like about it, I like the complexity they're going with the Lizzie character because it's obvious. You know, we always kind of thought this was the case, that Carol was innocent. I mean, the writing's on the wall. She was going to kill that baby for the same reasons why she killed and burned the sick inmates, because I know she did it, and Carol covered up for her. She did it for the exact same reasons, and she was going to kill the baby for the same reasons. And
liabilities.
They're liabilities. You know, there's a term for those kind of people. You know, they'll pick off the individuals to benefit the greater whole. I mean, you know, like I said, I always think back to, it's a question of ethics, but I always think back to Adolf Hitler, you know, who was euthanizing people that were just weaker, you know, that he felt didn't serve society, the mentally handicapped or the physically disabled. And it's just that whole mentality. And why she's a sociopath, I have no idea. It doesn't really, I mean, I get it. You know, growing up, she's in the developmental stage anyway, mentally. You know, you're a kid. You know, you're going to be responsive to your surroundings. So it doesn't help that she's growing up in that time during a zombie apocalypse. But kids like that exist anyway in what we know as day-to-day life. There are rotten apples.
They're called serial killers.
Well, she was the one skinning those rats or feeding those rats to walkers. I mean, it's all very, very obvious, and it very well could just be for the simple reason that she's one of those rotten apples that just quite ain't right. You know, the ones that talk to themselves, the ones that like to torture little animals that become, you know, Ted Bundys or Jeffrey Dahmers later on in life. And I think that's cool, man. Do I think it's kind of, what are the odds of this happening, that they have one of these crazy types in this group too? I mean, they've had all, whatever, but it's good television, and I like where they're going with it, and I'm digging it. So if the baby being alive is serving all of this, then so be it. At least I don't want it to be in vain.
I think
my loan, yeah.
I think it'd be interesting now. I'm all for getting some backstory on Lizzie. Maybe doing a flashback on her and showing her little bedroom full of animal bones, and like maybe she's got a drawer underneath her bed or something. There's like one of her little friends that she murdered or something, just kind of stuffed in there, stinking up the room.
And there's other people that aren't catching on to that are thinking, well, maybe she learned it from Carol and she was in on it. She was just kind of doing what monkey see monkey, but that's totally stupid.
They're dum-dums.
It's totally stupid.
That's just no.
It's like, is it not more logical that she could have just did it? Granted, I mean,
that's just I guess it's just kind of overanalyzation of maybe something, but also just kind of completely missing the mark of what's actually being done within the episode when it comes to telling the story. So.
Granted, I mean, I do kind of understand she's a young child, and these sick people were clearly pulled from their cells. I mean, a small kid. I don't know how she could have did that, but there's ways.
Maybe Carol helped her. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe Carol did teach her how to be crazy.
I don't know, but like I think you've pointed out in the past, Carol was a mother herself. There's no way that she would have endorsed killing a baby, for God's sake.
Yeah, no, that's just there's no way. She'd have way more compassion. I mean, she has toughened and hardened up here as we've gone along, and as she's had to, obviously, from where she was in the first season to where she is now is leaps and bounds when it actually comes for character development, especially for this show. But actually, now that I think about it, she's probably the most evolved character of all of them that we've had. They're pretty much all still the same people except for her.
I know. She's the only character on the show I actually like.
Well, another thing I actually thought about that I was curious about, I think the chances that this is the case is probably slim. I'm pretty sure that, I assume Lizzie had her back to it, but when then Carol showed up, she probably, turned away, took her hand off the baby. But what are the chances that Carol kind of knows she's got a screw loose and actually witnessed her?
Knows.
Oh, I'm sure.
But what do you think the odds are that she witnessed what she was doing to that kid and she's still covering for her?
Well, she burned the body, so of course she knows she has a screw loose.
Yeah, I mean, she already kind of knows she's a little nutty. So, if she's covered for her once, she'll cover for her again. And maybe who knows, in further episodes, Carol will take the baby away, and Lizzie's gonna be like, "Oh, can I hold the baby?" And Carol's like, "No, you can't."
Yeah, and the other big look see was with Maggie, and she was with Sasha. Yeah. She was with Sasha and Bob, like who from day one I still don't get his character. I don't understand what his purpose is. Are they just setting him up for a big story point later? I mean, as far as I know, he had one episode where he was an alcoholic, and he almost caused some shit to go down because it was a problem. But other than that,
but hey, on the back end, he provided the bottle for Glenn's Molotov cocktail.
Exactly.
I saw that popping up online, but that is true. That was pretty. See, it takes an obsessive person to catch little stuff like that, but that's what this show's all about. There's tons and tons of just fanatics out there. But anyway, we got Maggie, and she's just hard pressed to find Glenn. She's not really focused on her sister. It's funny, Beth's all focused on finding Maggie, but she's all like, I gotta find Glenn, fuck my sister. But whatever. I noticed that. It's like, but I think it's funny how she's like, you guys stay here. I'm pretty sure he went this direction. Conveniently, she takes 10 steps, in whatever direction that was, and she finds the school bus. Like, well, that was really easy and convenient. They find the school bus, and they had a really cool scene going here. And I kind of think they botched it a little bit, but I thought it was a little laughable how she's like, well, let them out one by one, and I'll sit there and take them out so I can see them in the face. They were some courteous zombies, man. Opening the door, only one comes out. They did it. I mean, they eventually bomb rushed the door. I just thought that was a little bit of a cheesy moment, but no, the big thing is when she went in the bus, and the last zombie was one that looked a lot like Glenn under the seat, and we had this moment where she killed it or whatever, and she started crying, but then it kind of slowly turned into a laughter, and I really think that should have been Glenn.
We are all wishing it was Glenn, especially Riverman here.
I think it would have been a potent scene. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be Glenn because there's no way they're going to waste such a main character's death. They're gonna show him getting bitten on screen to get that big wow factor, to have everybody cursing at their TVs at home. They're just not gonna waste it. And
yeah, he's been there since what, the first episode?
Yeah, I think first one.
Actually. Yeah. Then he's the one that rescued Rick from the tank.
Yeah, so they're not just gonna pull a Merle and just all of a sudden he walks out and hey, there's Glenn's a zombie now.
But I thought the scene would have been really powerful. I liked how they didn't show his face and you just saw her breaking out.
It could have been cool if that's the way she would have found out. That's how it happened.
Mm-hmm. And I think that. Like I said, I lose track of time. I don't know how long I was watching the episode, but at that moment, I thought, oh my! When they were zoomed up in on her face, kind of crying / laughing, I thought they were going to cut the show off there. I'm like, in typical Walking Dead fashion, like, you mother truckers. But they didn't. There actually was quite a bit of episode left, but
they should have ended it there, in my opinion.
Oh, making you wait than not knowing if that was Glenn or not.
I'd rather have that than have to see Glenn's face.
Okay. I don't dislike Glenn. He's had his moments where it's like, get a grip, man. You're pussified. But
he is. He's annoying too.
But that was the big revelation for them. And then we move on to, Glenn. Glenn is still alive. They pretty much don't make us wait on the edge of our seats. And he's in the prison of all places. And
magically appeared.
I had a moment of, okay, am I crazy? I could have swore he was on the bus. And I think he eventually goes on to explain that he got off the bus. Right?
Yeah, then he crawled about 2 miles up into the prison and hid from the zombies and then passed out for 2 days.
Well, we got that. We got the idea that that's part of Glenn's character. He's already shown that even when he was sick, like, I gotta help, I gotta find Maggie, or I gotta help. I get it. So
he was dying on the bus, though. I don't know how he would get all the way up there.
Well, I don't know, but I could see him still wanting to do that. But I think it's funny how he makes it all the way up there. He obviously clearly said, screw this, and passed out, and I don't know, he was lucky that zombies didn't dine on Asian cuisine that night. I mean, I don't think that much time has passed. I literally think it's 2 days max.
Yeah,
that's what I get.
18 hours or so, I'd say.
Yeah, so it's not that. I mean, obviously, because Glenn, he straps on the riot gear, he makes his way outside, and he finds, I don't know her name, but she's the lesbian,
the one with the mustache.
The one with the mustache, we'll call her. And she's just sitting out there, in like a little gated confine. I don't know what it is, just a little bitty cell-looking thing outdoors. And the walkers are clearly just chomping at the bit to get to her. And she's just looking down in despair like, oh, I'm a scumbag. I don't think she could have been doing that long. So she wasn't there.
Yeah, because, I mean, you get tired. You'd have to go to the bathroom at least, for God's sakes.
But so another unlikely pairing, they get together and she kind of confesses and confides to him, hey, I'm part of this. I'm a scumbag. I'm sorry. She tells Glenn that Herschel bit it. And
I was kind of hoping Glenn would run into the Herschel head.
That would
wouldn't
been
that
funny.
Be something, huh?
And then he picks it up, shaking it. Why?
Yeah.
It's freaking just like the entrails of the head are falling out. But or he does like the Tropic Thunder and like licks it. The best. But so they get together and she helps him. He needs her help, and they make their way out of there. And the big thing with them is that they run across the character of Abraham, who I don't read the comics. I stay away from the comics, especially now that the show's running. But he's a very big character of the comics, and everybody knew he was coming. And just from the presence he gave, man, I'm excited about him. Because usually when a character pops up in the show, every other episode, like Eyebrows or like, I don't know, Tyrese's girlfriend, or Bob for that matter, they're just filler. I'm like, this person is nothing but a walking sack that they're going to use for somebody to get eaten in an episode to kind of spice it up. But, Abraham looks like he's going to take names, like he's going to be a real cool character,
Yeah, I like the quote. What did he say? You got a damn mouth on you. What else you got? Or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's been.
I've heard that. I read that scene was like basically shot for shot from the comics. So, I guess people, the fanboys are just freaking out about Abraham being finally written into the show.
Now, what do you think his place is in this so-called sanctuary? Because I saw a sign that was directing towards some sort of sanctuary, some retreat.
I don't necessarily think maybe he has. I don't know if he's maybe directly involved with it, or maybe if he's from another camp that's maybe in a surrounding area. But yeah, like you said, they found that sign that was leading to Terminus, which looks like a central hub for all the railroad tracks that are in the area. And apparently there's people there. So maybe Abraham's paid like a sergeant at arms type situation, kind of like how Merle was, where running out on raids, looking for survivors, looking for supplies, looking for anything. But if you watch the kind of coming up on the next episode, it looks like he was kind of trying to survive too, and telling Glenn that you need me, big guy, or something like that. So
I kind of hope we have a little rivalry with him and Rick too.
Rick, I think Rick's at this point now where he just is willing to. I think he was at that point when he brought in Woodsbury.
Give up everything.
Yeah, when he brought in Woodsbury. But I am very excited. We get a lot of new characters, an influx of characters, but he's the first character we've gotten in a while that is like a leader. Like we're going to have another leader type on our hands, and I think it's cool. I think it's going to spice it up. I don't know, and I'm very interested to see where the next episode goes as far as the development of him. And I want to go into questions. We're going to start answering fan-submitted questions via our hotline or Facebook. And before we go into predictions, I want to address some of those.
What do you think the reunion between Carol and Rick will be like? And what do you think that Tyrese's reaction will be once he finds out what Carol did? Thank you.
The first question: what do we think Tyrese's reaction to Carol is going to be in her return? My answer to that is he obviously doesn't know about what Carol did. I mean, it goes back to the whole thing of not that much time has passed. Mm-hmm. He clearly, It
was pretty sudden, everything kind of going down. I think Rick had only told Daryl and Herschel, and obviously Herschel being dead.
He's not going to tell anybody.
Yeah. And then Rick and Daryl obviously being separated. It's just kind of a matter, and I don't think Carol would be hard pressed to probably just come out and outright say, "Hey, Tyrese, by the way, I killed your girlfriend." So
it happened a lot Yeah, it happened a lot faster than people think. I mean,
yeah, I think the situation will kind of be where they're all going to meet up, and Daryl's kind of actually going to chime in here with maybe that will be finally the time he speaks when. He kind of make an alliance maybe with Carol more, kind of bringing back that back around into the fold.
People forget how fast it happened. It's Rick went out, getting supplies, getting resources with Carol. He pretty much had to talk with her out on the hunt, banished her. He comes back with no Carol, and as soon as he gets back, the zombies had rushed the fence, and him and Carl have that father-son push it to the limit moment. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, the governor's invading. He had just barely enough time to tell Daryl, but it was so quick to where nobody really realized she was gone. And even Tyrese said, "Hey, how did you get out?" And she informed him, "Well, I saw it as I was coming back," type of thing. So,
right.
And once again, I think Lizzie is the one that killed the people anyway, killed his girlfriend. It wasn't even Carol. So she's been defending her, and considering that, I don't think a show is going to, if somebody did know, let's say somebody got wind that Lizzie did it, I don't think somebody's going to go, "Hey, Tyrese, Lizzie did it." I don't think they're going to present that issue because, I don't know, a TV's just not, I don't know what a grown man like him would do to a little girl. That would be interesting to see what, how different he'd react. I don't think they're going to do that. I think when it comes to light, it's going to be a big revelation. It's going to be building up because she's a sociopath. I think it's going to be built up through another heinous act. Like she's going to do something, she's going to out herself as being a sociopath first, and then it's all going to come out like she did everything. I think
yeah.
Well, he'll be out for blood, and I think that'll be his demise. I think he'll end up dying because of it.
Mm.
Something will happen.
Maybe she'll kill him.
Lizzie?
Yeah.
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 Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know,
Yeah,
man.
you never know.
Killers are quiet. Doesn't matter what size you are, man. When you're quiet,
It's true, Oldie.
She might have stolen the gun back from her sister or something.
like
Tyrese,
I said,
Tyrese is gonna
Give him
do
some
something
poison
to Carol.
grapes.
Yeah. Maybe she's just gonna be crazy about it.
it presents a whole new, bunch of obstacle and paths we could go down with the story. Like I said, that's why I'm excited about the Lizzie arc here. There's so much they could do now. Second question:
So is Michonne done being a desperado?
is Michonne done being a desperado? Pat?
Yes, of course. For those of you who might have missed the first episode last week, that was pretty much the entire point of her little story arc there for a little while. She left the prison. She resorted back to what she used to know by, creating the walkers, much along the same line that she had when we first met her, and started, traveling again with a pack of walkers, back to kind of being, the lone wolf type situation. She bypassed the footprints that she clearly saw that, she would have. She doesn't necessarily know that they're survivors, but she can figure. And then she snaps, turns back around, and then rejoins. That's when she finds Rick. So I don't think I myself or the writers could get a bigger, canvas and crayons and paint a easier picture for, everybody to kind of realize. But apparently it wasn't as obvious as one may think. Yeah. She is definitely. I think that's definitely the point, was showing that she does, and especially including the kind of, I think the flashback scene showing that she did have some ties to other people. She wasn't always a recluse or just this person who just kind of lived by her own rules. She is socialized, so to speak. So it shows that, that's why she started crying when she saw Carl and Rick, because she actually has emotions for other people, and that's what she realized after leaving the prison. So
the show is all about underlinings, and once you learn its formula, it becomes a lot less predictable. I mean, you start seeing this stuff. I mean, we all, at least the three of us, we got it down, I think. I mean, we're catching on to all these little subtleties. And like I said, once you learn how it works, there really is less questions. And that's kind of bad on them. They need to keep, that's why I like this episode once again for Lizzie, because it's shaking up the pot a little bit, breaking up the monotony, and it is making me guess again, but I think the last few podcasts we've done, it's been really easy for predictions. I mean, more often than not, there's somebody in this group that's really dead on with the predictions for the future.
This whole season's been like that.
Yeah. But now with the Lizzie thing, there's literally, you could almost have a whole podcast on where the next episode is going to go, I think, and we don't know. So I dig that. The next question.
How do you think that Morgan will reappear in a coming episode?
Do we think we're going to see Morgan again? I like this question because, for me at least, when he popped up in the third season, it was super refreshing, because after we had been through all the Andrea, Governor, Woodbury, and prison stuff, it was really cool to see somebody back from season one and sort of, give us a treat and bring me back to the roots of the show. It was really cool, and I kind of forgot about him because he was just in that first episode. Rick bonded with him. He was pretty much just like Rick. He was just a man looking after his boy, and they were going to get by. And of course, he made that whole promise with the walkie-talkies. He never did. But I kind of forgot about him. And now that he made another return again, I do think he's going to show up again. In what capacity, I have no idea.
I hope he's crazier than the last time we saw him. So I hope like the people of Terminus are using him like a wild man, like in kind of like a gladiator type thing, where you don't have to fight walkers, but you have to fight or like he's like king of a walker, king of like a zombie clan, like in the middle of some neighborhood, just using them as his like unholy hordes.
Oh,
he's that
to take out people.
He's that thing in the arena from Coneheads.
Yeah,
they throw the traitors of the people that committed crimes to I don't remember what it was called, I don't know what it was. But yeah, it's this guy. I don't know what I don't think you're going to be uncrazy. I mean, do you really get better from the way he was? He was pretty far gone.
Hey, it worked for Rick, though. He was pretty crazy himself.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He was crazier than Rick, man.
Yeah, he was crazier, but
he didn't recognize Rick.
Yeah.
he just didn't recognize Rick, and I don't know, but that was a good example of them not showing a death on screen. I thought it was cool that after all this time passed, he sees him again, and it's just, hey, I lost my son. So much we can be let known of a lot of indirect activity. Like, meanwhile, this is what happened to this guy. We didn't have to see all of it. I thought it was really powerful. Like,
I wonder if he ended up killing his wife too.
Yeah, I guess he just had that moment. That's the last time I saw where he had that moment in season 1 where he couldn't shoot her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the wife is. Wouldn't that be crazy if the wife was the one that killed their son?
I don't remember. That was 2 seasons ago.
That'd be nuts.
That's totally. If we do see him again, that's totally going to be how they show his son dying, if they show it.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about? Yeah, I mean, like I said, for this show, it is a drama. All the pieces fall perfectly. Like, what are the odds the mom kills the son? Whatever. It's good drama, I guess. But what if they just brought him back as a zombie? They run into him as a walker. That's a cheap way out, but it's also an understandable way out because he is pretty nuts. I would buy them running into him as a zombie than running into him not crazy anymore, personally. But
that'd be kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, I like that question. I hope I see him again. On to our closeout, man. Just reviews and predictions for the next episode. I've already kind of said what the prediction was, and it's that I don't know. I kind of hope. All I can say for my predictions is that I hope that we keep going with this story arc. I think we're going to have Daryl and Beth run into the Carol camp, and we get a little bit more of, what Abraham's all about. What I hope we don't get is a back and forth situation. Be like, okay, now here's what's happening with Michonne and Carl and Rick. It's like, God. So I really hope they bring them all together a little sooner than later, so we don't just keep going back and forth, because it's just like hot and cold, man. It's like, I don't like it. It's like, now I'm all about this episode. I'm all about this arc. I want to see where it goes. I don't want to find out what's going to happen with this situation in 2 weeks, because I can't take that kind of nickel and diamonds. That's my only prediction. But as far as my rating goes, man, I really will. I think I gave the last one like a 7 or 6.5. I don't know. I'm giving this one an 8.5 because I really liked it. I don't really have a whole lot of gripes about it. I mean, there's always going to be the jerk yourself off moments. Like, there's no way but it was good. There's really not a whole lot. Yeah, of course, Glenn dying would have been cool but I think it's going to happen. But between him or Maggie, one of them's going to die. And since Glenn is since Glenn has evaded death so many times, he's been at the doorstep of it so many times, and for him to still be alive, it almost makes me think that Maggie's going to be the one to go and he's going to live. But who knows? But I still really thought the episode was strong, and most importantly, it did something that an episode hasn't done in a while, and that's made me actually want to watch it next week. So 8.5 from me. River.
I am going to give this a solid 7. Well, first of all, I kind of want to get into what I think is going to happen next week. I think we're going to have a little bit more subtleties that Lizzie is crazy, and I don't think it'll be a big reveal to everybody yet, but I think by the end of the season there's going to be a big reveal with her, how crazy she really is, and if she ends up killing somebody or one of the main characters. But I like where they're going, focusing on Abraham, a new character, and really looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table, and hopefully him and Rick, I don't know. Hopefully, I kind of hope they don't get along, But we'll see what happens to that. What happens with that? I give it a solid 7 because of Glenn's survival in the end. I thought the first 50 minutes of the episode were great. I was like, okay, I like where this is going. And then Glenn's face pops up, and then I'm like, okay, Glenn's still alive. And then the fact is, okay, we got to see him run around with mustache and almost get killed. I mean, really? I mean, Glenn's supposed to be this main character. He almost gets killed by one zombie, so whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, man. No Carl means I'm happy. I couldn't be happier. I got no Carl. I'm not going to gripe. Pat, what about you?
I'm going to go with a solid 8 on this one. I thought the action was great. Obviously, it's a little more faster paced, but just adding one more thing into having this episode, something happening in this episode makes it more faster paced than the first one. There's paint dries quicker than they got to the point of the first episode. But I thought AMC kind of screwed themselves with the whole Glenn thing because as far as I could tell from the scenes coming up next from the first episode to the second episode, Glenn was still alive. So that whole bus scene was kind of pointless. So I thought kind of showing that scene for them in that trailer just kind of screwed them out of, a little more, a little more pop, being a bit more poignant when it came to that scene. But yeah, solid 8. And I think we're all obviously working towards, they're going to meet back up. And I think we're going to start moving towards this, the sanctuary, and kind of dealing with things that maybe be like a Woodbury, but maybe even more sinister, or maybe it's the utopia that they're looking for. I'm not really quite sure. Who knows?
Well, at the end of the day, last week's episode would have fit so much better if they would have worked with this format. They covered so much more in 45 minutes, and they could have told that whole Carl thing in an episode like this, where we got a little bit of everybody. So definitely a much better episode. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on the Facebook. Give us a like there. Facebook, BehindTheMaskPresents.com. Follow us on Twitter at BTM Presents. And, of course, call with your feedback at 402-218-2007. Leave us a voicemail. It's not going to be awkward. No one's going to answer it. It's going to go straight to voicemail after a couple rings. And it's not like, we're not going to answer it on the toilet or anything. So let us know what you think is going to happen next week. Let us know if you think we're awesome, and let us know if we, really suck. And if you do think we suck, let us know why we suck. Let's get a little debate. It gets a little hard if somebody just calls in and say, hey, you guys suck, hang up. We don't really have anything to comment on. Like, okay, fuck you maybe, but tell us why you suck and let's have a little debate about it. It'd be wonderful. So do that, hit us up, and until next time, thanks a lot. I'm Aaron.
Riverman.
Pat.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, Canada.